So in this video, I'm going to talk about how optimism can help you as an entrepreneur. Now, specifically, I'm going to talk about what not to do, because optimism is not this other thing that I'm going to share with you. So in this video, I'm going to talk about 4 specific things. The difference between optimism and emotion, totally different. I'm going to talk about just how transparency and integrity can totally protect and actually have your relationships thrive. I'm going to talk about how to never burn bridges, right? Just how do you always keep the relationship healthy and how do you exit clean? So let's start at the beginning. Optimism, what is it? I'm going to say it's a state of mind. Right? It's a choice to be optimistic. I think I was born optimistic. I always look at what's possible. One of the energies that you want to put in your life if you want optimism is to be curious, right? So you say, well, what's opposite of that? Judgmental, negative, always criticizing. See, I look at things from an optimistic standpoint and say, how can it work? How can we make money? What can you do? Notice those are all forward thinking and forward directional language versus, it's negative and whining and crying. Just notice your posture in life. How do you look at things that are coming to you? Are you looking them at opportunities or do you look at them as challenges? I look at everything as an opportunity. I say yes and I figure it out. Now, that's a condition that you've got to put into your life and you've got to strengthen the muscles to do it. So here's what I want you to do on a very micro level. Instead of being all emotional and dramatic, women, especially you, I want you just to notice when something comes your way, how do you process it? Are you saying it's optimistic? Or are you saying it's a challenge? Which one are right out of the gate? Are you saying yes to opportunities? Or are you saying no right away? Here's what happens right in between that yes and that no. You process that as if you have to do all the work. And let me give you an example. Actually, I'll give you a little story. So when I was 24 years old, I had got a finance degree and a master's degree in exercise physiology. Odd combination. But it was kind of timely because corporate wellness was up and thriving. So this was between 1983 and 1987. So I got my degree in finance, then I got my degree in exercise physiology, took the degrees and I did statistical analysis of why so many unhealthy people cost companies a ton of money. Hence, I walked through companies getting massive contracts. So I was 24 years old and I applied for this job, this contract with Chevron. I was living in Nebraska and it was to fly around and build 272 fitness centers on offshore oil rigs, but it was a multi-million-dollar contract. And so of all the people that went offshore, we flew offshore. I'll never forget the day that I got the contract. I was offshore, I had those little, sexy blue jumpsuits, hard, steel-toed shoes, got a hard hat on, those little, goggles, flying in a helicopter, and the engineer offered me the opportunity he said, Miss Loral, do you think you know how to build 272 fitness centers on offshore oil rigs? And I had those glasses on, thank God, because I didn't have to look side to side, and I said, absolutely. And then in that split second, everything about me, going, what are you saying? I don't know how to do this. Every doubt comes up, every fear comes up. It happens all the time in your decision making. And then I just said, just relax and get curious. Say, who's gonna help me do this? And I said yes to this multi-million-dollar contract. I went home to Nebraska, packed up my little car, and I drove to New Orleans and lived in the French Quarter while I flew offshore for the next 3 years of my life. That yes moment, I call that one of the biggest yes moments of my life. It changed my life. The next yes moment of my life was with Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Lechter. I sat around her kitchen table and I said, I want to leave Chevron. I've been doing this for a long time. Huge job at that point. And I said, see this cash flow game? I want to be the master distributor. And I remember Sharon looked me straight in the eye and said, young lady, do you know how to distribute a game? And I said, absolutely. And again, my optimism and curiosity said, I wonder who knows how to help me do this. So notice how many times you use your emotion of no and challenge and negativity to make a decision in your life because you don't know how to do it. I say yes to all sorts of things I don't know how to do, but I find a team who knows how to do it. So together we get a lot done. Together you could get more done. Together you could be a multimillionaire if you stop driving your life by emotion and instigate all of your decision making with optimism and yes. So inside of that yes energy, I do want you to be extremely transparent and have integrity to it. I had integrity in every one of those decisions that I just explained. I knew that I would find a team. So let's go back to those 2 stories. What did I do? I took the job, right? Contract at Chevron at that point. And the whole way home and the whole way back, All I did was think about who's going to help me. Because obviously, I know how to build the fitness center, and I knew we were going to take railroad cars and we're going to reconstitute them. I knew how to buy the fitness equipment. I knew how to do the workouts. What I didn't know how to do is how you going to get that little box out on an oil rig and hoist it up so it had different ventilation, because a lot of people smoked inside. What do? You call an engineering firm. So remember, you got this thing, it's called common sense. So a lot of you abandoned common sense and transparency and integrity. Like, they knew that I didn't really know how to do it, but heck, they didn't know how to do it either. They hired me to do it. Right? Did Sharon and Robert know how to put their game in the world, their cash flow game in the world? Probably. But again, they needed a team. They were focused on getting Rich Dad, Poor Dad to the bestseller list. My job was to put the game on the map. So team, 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 team. I cannot emphasize that. So be transparent. Have integrity to your decisions when you say yes. And then immediately say, who's going to help me? Not how do you do it? That's the wrong conversation. The words are very similar. How and who. Same, letters mixed up. You got the wrong conversation if you're thinking about how do I do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't want to know how to do it. I'm going to hire somebody who knows how. I'm going to know who to hire. That is a $1 trillion tip. You better write it down. And if you liked it, go below and put up a whole bunch of thumbs and say, I like that, I like that, I like that. I've got lots of $1 trillion tips for you. So your homework right now is to think about all the things coming your way and how many times in a day do you say no versus say yes and stay optimistic, stay in integrity to your word, and start finding that team. The next thing is make sure you don't burn the bridges. And the reason I brought that up is just a lot of people abandon relationships way too quick. Some of the greatest, richest relationships that I've had and multi-millionaire relationships, we've been through it, right? I come with this optimistic yes energy. They come with yes energy. We might have, differences of opinion, but I can tell you there's ways to just part graciously, right? Which is, I appreciate where you're thinking and I appreciate where you're thinking. I'm going to go find a new team. That doesn't have to be negative. Remember, you got to have the agreement set up front, but don't burn those bridges. You never know. Years and years later, and I can tell you lots of stories where someone abandoned the team at a certain time. I was really frustrated. There was probably moments where I said, I'm never going to have them back on the team again. And here we are years later, they're back on the team. So when you find great skill sets and you find great people that kind of work like you and actually have the vision of what you have, put them on the team. Don't burn the bridge at the end. Just let them go their way. You go your way. You will be back together. So the way to exit clean is to enter SMART, which means your operating agreement. I love operating agreements. That is the guideline of how you're going to do business. So it is a legal document, but let's make it simple. Here's how simple it is. What are you going to do? And what am I going to do? And if you have a variety of people, what is everyone going to do? Clearly laid out in just simple terms that everybody understands. Inside of there, one of the biggest clauses that I love to put in is called a right to correct. So somebody might screw up their role or not be performing at the level you wanted. So you sit down and you have a review and they have a right to correct. And that could be in 2 weeks or a month or whatever's the appropriate time frame. And if it really goes bad, right, and they're just not performing, give them a gracious exit. Say, you know what, we're going to do a buyout. This part of the business was not what you expected or what we expected. So give them a gracious buyout, let them walk, and let them save face. But do your best to exit clean. Do your best to never burn those bridges and always say yes in your life. Now, I have this amazing gift for you. It's called the expression of your power, because it is about that expression of your power being optimistic and yes energy. And here's the biggest gift. Bob Proctor and I did this together. So this is an extraordinary layout of a 12-step process of how you generate this optimistic energy in your life. How do you live it all the time? You can ask my kids. People will say, does Loral just perform? Does she just get up and turn on a switch, or is she always like this? I'm always like this. It's a lot easier just to stay positive and optimistic and create what you want in your life. So please click on the link below. Get this gift from Bob Proctor and I. It is the most amazing gift. It'll change the way you think about money. It will change your decisions about business, and it will create you as an optimistic person.